Welcome back, everyone. Dr. Bill Angel with us from OSU Lima, talking a little bit about a book you're reading that compares and contrasts Watergate to the January 6th Capitol attack and everything going on there. What stood out as far as what's very similar and what's very different between those?
What strikes me as similar is the fact that both administrations were obsessed with secrets and leaks being leaked away, and there was a really anti-democratic tendency among both administrations. But I don't think that Nixon's activities quite raise up to the level of what happened on January 6th.
The personalities between the two, some will say that they both have a little bit of paranoia, both really sought out loyalty, that kind of thing. Are there things you can say about the two personalities?
There are differences. Nixon was more an introvert.
Okay.
He didn't get the energy out of public events and things like that the way Trump does. And consequently, he was more skeptical, more distrusting, more secretive, relied upon only a few subordinates to work with. I mean, for example, the whole issue of the tapes. You know, he's the one that ordered the taping. He ordered the tapes being set up.
It's so amazing to hear all those.
And only three other people knew about it.
Right.
And so people were going to the office. Kissinger and all these people were going to the office, the Oval Office, not realizing that there were microphones in the ceiling and in his desk, and they were being recorded.
And that was the downfall. That
was the downfall.
Yeah.
That was the secret of this.
Yeah. The other thing we talked a little bit too, obviously back in the early 70s, media coverage, you basically had your three networks, you didn't have cable influence, those kind of things, and there was more trust for the media back then to hear these kind of things and think, oh yeah, something's going on.
Well, they were all getting the same story. There was a sort of a sense of a unified message coming from the media, but you don't get that anymore because of the fragmentation. People can basically go to the listen to the ideological point of view they want to hear, and so we didn't have that. We didn't have that back in those days.
In this day and age, it's almost like the media is fighting against each other to give their interpretation of what's going on.
Oh yeah, it was real competition, which is a good thing in a way, but it basically makes it difficult to determine what is truth.
Yeah.
And I happen to believe there is such a thing as absolute truth, and if you got one side going one way and the other side going another way, it's really hard for people to figure that out.
Yeah, Woodward and Bernstein, I was telling, similar to the book you're reading, we're talking about this issue late last month, and they talked about how the party reacted at the time, and it's a little different now. Initially, they talked about Watergate. Some Republicans stood back and said, oh, let's wait and see what happens. Is there truth to this? But as you said, a lot of them came out and said, no, there's something really wrong here.
The thing is, if we remember, they were conservative Democrats and liberal Republicans.
Right, you don't have that much anymore.
You don't have that. They're more split.
Yeah.
But the other thing was that finally there at the end, it was Barry Goldwater and Howard Baker and Minority Leader Hugh Scott, Senate Minority Leader Hugh Scott, who came to Nixon and told him he had to leave. See, you don't find that kind of courage in the Republican Party these days.
Does the book talk a little bit about the overall, goal? Because Nixon resigned, Trump wants to stay in power and did want to stay in power. Was there a little different there? Maybe that was a personality difference between the two as well.
I think it's a difference in the sense that basically it was the Republican Party that made it possible for Nixon to resign. Because they said, Mr. President, you don't have the votes to survive impeachment. And we all know that Trump has gone through, 2 impeachments and was able to survive both of them. So, I mean, it says a lot about the difference between the parties these days as well.
When you read the book and then you saw the testimony, I think last week or maybe the week before, of Cassidy Hutchinson, anything change your mind there?
I think it made me it showed us that January 6th was a lot more serious threat to democracy than Watergate was. Watergate was more or less about Nixon trying to hide things that were embarrassing, would have been politically embarrassing to his administration, but not necessarily threats to the democratic system. With the overthrow of the government and overthrow of an election, a freely contested election, that's a lot different.
Yeah. And what's the name of the book?
The name of the book is Garrett Graff. Watergate, A New History, came out just in May.
All right, excellent. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Good seeing you. Don't go away. Medical news coming up next on Unit Issue.